In this lecture, I'm going to teach you how to create what I call a fancy pivot. And by fancy, I mean it's elegant, simple, and effective. This is how the average pivot table looks, and this is the elegant one. It's not too colorful, it's quite simple actually, but it's effective because it uses colors in a good way that helps with understanding the data and the trends. What I like about it is that it's not just the looks, but it has substance to it. Every time you add new data or your product or add new categories, you just need to refresh this table and you're done. There's no need for additional formatting. And the aim of this lecture is to show you how to get here. So first, let's have a look at our data set. We have main products. In this case, we're selling beverages and snacks. Then we have the product itself. The year, I have now 2 years, 2015, 2016, per month, and we're tracking revenue and quantity. So what's the first step I need to do before I insert my pivot? Create an Excel table out of this. So I do Control-T and say OK. Why do I need to create an Excel table? It's because it makes your pivot table dynamic. So every time you add new lines, you don't need to expand the range. Once your source data is a table, everything is done automatically. You just need to go to your pivot and refresh your data. Now, first thing I do here is to put back the design. I'm not so fond of these colorful designs, so I normally put it back to my own. And now I get this little blue icon down here, so it's an Excel table. Once you have a table, you also get this option Summarize with Pivot Table. So I'll click that. That's my table range. I will put this table on a new worksheet. So now let's drag and drop. I would like to have the main category and the product in the row labels. I want to have the year in the columns. You see when I tick marked it, it put it here because it has values in it. It thinks I want to add them up, but I don't, so I'm going to drag it here. I want to have the months as a filter on top. And the revenue and quantity I would like to have as my values. Okay, so that's the first step, designing the structure of the table. As a second step, I'm going to remove what I don't need. So I don't want to have these two columns here. I can either do that in design, or I can right mouse click and say remove grand total here. Then let's do some basic design improvements. Let's remove these here by turning this off, and also the buttons. Now let's do some renaming. Instead of sum of quantity, I just want quantity. So I'm going to put a space there. The same for revenue. And I want this the other way around. I want my latest year to be first. So I can right mouse click and sort. Now let's take care of the number formatting. For quantity, right mouse click and go to, remember, not here, but instead here. Number format. And we tick mark the 1000 separator. We need to do the same thing for revenue. I'm also going to change the grand total. I will call it products. Let's also change the layout of this to tabular format. Let's just take away the totals. Notice that it did it automatically for snacks as well. Now let's say in this case we're also interested to track the percentage change in revenue from this year to last year. What do I need to do? I need to drag my revenue field again down here. It's added it here, and now I can change it and choose what I'm actually really interested in seeing. And remember, a lot of options were if you right mouse click and say show values as. I want to show it as the percentage difference from, which one? From last year. So that's actually not my product, it's the year. Now previous and next, it doesn't mean previous year. It's based on the structure of your pivot table, not on the concept of year. In the structure of my pivot table, 2015 comes after 2016, so it's actually next. You see here, I get nothing because I don't have 2014. Let's change the header. I'm going to call it percentage change. For change, you can also use symbols. If you go to Insert Symbol, there's some nice ones you can use in your reports. You'll find a lot of them under Arial. Under mathematical operators, see this change one. So I'll take that one and insert and put it right in my cell there. I'm going to take away the revenue. I can put previous year. Sometimes I also like to show the plus sign just so that it's consistent. And I don't need 2 digits, I just need 1. So to format this, right mouse click, value field settings. And now we can create our own custom format. I want a percentage, but I want to have the plus sign if it's a plus. And here's one with percentage, so let's start off with that one. I want 1 digit. If it's a plus, I want the plus there. If it's a minus, I want it with a minus sign. And if it's 0, I just want to see 0. Because if I don't put anything for 0, it takes the plus. It's going to show plus 0.0. What you can later do for parts of the pivot that you don't need, you can hide or group them out of view. And we'll do that at the end. Let's take this one step further by adding these changing colors for conditional formatting, that if it's a plus, we get a green cell here. If it's a minus, we get a red cell. How do I do that? First off, I need to have values in here that I can conditionally format. To get values in there, I can do exactly what I did now. So I can again take the revenue, drag it down here, and show it as the percentage difference. Now I can use conditional formatting on this. And I'm going to show you the way I like to format these. So let's go to Home. That's where conditional formatting is. We're going to go to New Rule. Now the smart thing about conditional formatting in this case is that it realizes that you're on a pivot. You have the option to apply the conditional formatting only to those selected cells, which in this case we don't want, or you can apply it to the sum of revenue, which we want because we want to apply it to the whole thing. If you only wanted to apply it to the headers, to the totals, you can choose this last option. But we're going to go with this one. And don't forget this, because otherwise you're only using conditional formatting on whatever you highlighted before. And now we have a bunch of choices. For the way I want to format, I'm going to select this one. And I want to say that if cell value is less than 0, it should format it that the fill is red Let's go with this one. And what I like to do is to put a white border around the cell so that they don't touch. Now you're going to see the effect when we go back in. And then the font. Well, let me leave the font for now as is. Let's see what happens. You see that's the white line. Obviously, we don't want to see our values in there. We just want to see a red cell. What do we need to do? How can we tweak this? We can change the font color to the same red. So let's go back. Now we go to Manage Rules, edit it. Under Font, select the same color that you selected for the cell. And now let's have a look. They're gone. Okay, they're not really gone, they're there, but they're not visible. So now we're going to do the same thing for the plus values. We're going to go again to Conditional Formatting. We can go to New Rule, Format only cells that contain, and now I will select greater than or equal to 0 and format it in a green color. Border, white, and the font should be the same green. It's looking much better. I don't need this header. I'm going to get rid of it. You can't leave it completely empty. You get an error. So you have to put a space in there. And then I can reduce the size of this. So that's starting to look much better. Now let's start working on the formatting. What we can do is we can hide these two because we don't need them. I prefer to group things whenever I can, so I'll group these. Let's remove the grid lines as well. Before we start, let's just make sure everything works. So I'm going to pick February, for example. I'm going to do May. I get this. But notice what happens when if I close this and I switch my view. So let's go back to Feb. It opens again. We can change that setting. Do you remember where that was? That was under Options. And it's Auto Fit Column Widths on Update. So uncheck this. And now it doesn't expand the columns anymore. So let's test. They stay as is. Now moving on to our design options. You see here you have a bunch of designs that start off very simple. Let me click this one, just with borders. And then they start getting more colorful. Now for me, the colorful ones are too distracting, and the simple ones don't have that impact that I want. It's always best to start with the design that's kind of closest to the one you want to have. And in my case is this one. And now what I can do is to duplicate this and then modify this duplicate. Let's give it a name. I'm going to call it Pivot Fancy. With the pivot table, you have a lot of options here, and it can be very difficult to find the border or the style that you want in here. It takes some playing around to see what is actually what. The good thing about it is that the bold ones help out to see which formatting is already applied so that you can easily change them. The way it works is that you define a basic format for the whole table, and then you can override this format when you update the formatting of the other features. The way I would like the entire table to be formatted is that I would like to have a white space between the lines. So I want it to be looking like this accounting format where you have a line from here to here, and then you have some white space, and then the next line. And to get that look, I go to Format, to the borders. I can apply a white vertical border in the middle. That's how I can get the effect that I want. So I can choose the thickness. You can't see anything here because they're all white, but this is the thickest line here, and then I can apply it in the middle. Now I need to go find my new format. So that's the custom one. That's the one I duplicated. You see the white space in between? That's because of the white vertical border that I added. Let's go right mouse click, and now I can modify it. Then I have the option to change the report filter labels and the values. That's basically this. And if I go to print preview, you can see that they have a double border. I just want the bottom border. So let's go back here. The same for the values. Now I don't use stripes here, so I can skip that. I want to change the header row. So the header row is this one. I'm going to remove the top border, this one. I would like to have a dark border on the bottom. So I'm going to switch to black and put this one on the bottom. I also don't want to have the white space here in the header. I want to have it in the table, but not in the header. I'm going to remove that as well. Let's just have a look at these changes we made. So now let's try to get a border for the subtotals here. And let's remove this line here, this one. And also let's make a really nice border for the grand total too. So let's go back. For the subtotal of row 1, I'm going to format it and bring my dark colors in there for the bottom and the middle. For the grand total though, I also want on top, so I want one here and here. Let's have a look. Yeah, it's starting to look good. So the only thing is to remove this. And that's under the first header cell. It's this one. Now the only thing that bothers me a little bit here is the fact that this 2016 and 2015 are not centered on top here. The problem with the pivot is that you can't just go in and merge and center cells. You're not allowed. And if I do it with format cells, every time I refresh, my data changes, it pops back to where it was. So my way around this is to add a calculated cell here that basically references this cell and then format that the way I like. Notice that when I select my pivot table, this area doesn't belong to the pivot table. So I can't actually input here. Generally, I don't like to merge things in Excel. If you work a lot with Excel, you're going to see they can become a headache. So what I do is this trick, and now you can use this in any report. It's nothing specific to the pivot. The first step is that you highlight. It's as if you want to merge them. But instead of merging, you go to Format Cells, use our shortcut Control-1, go to Alignment, and select Center Across Selection. What this does is it centers without merging. And your number or your value is actually still sitting here, but it shows it here. And that's my preferred way of merging without really merging, because then you can always copy and paste the cells easily from one place to another. So we're going to do the same thing here. center across selection. Don't forget that. It's very useful. And now I can also create a border for this. I'm going to hold Control down now. Unfortunately, I can't group this out of view because if I go to Data Group, it's not selectable. So you can group parts of a pivot. It's not a problem. It's just that you can't group the header. So in this case, I have to hide. And that's my final report. Now let's switch. Works really nice, and if I want to print it, it looks great. Because you don't see that filter button here, no one will know it's a pivot, but your life has been made so much simpler because every time new data is added, this is updated automatically. And let's test that. So let's go back to our original data. Let's add a new product for snacks. We're going to call it Sweet Stuff. Very creative. We need to have 2015 data as well. So let's do 320 here. Okay, so snacks, Sweet Stuff. Let's go back here. I added this to December. And refresh. See, Sweet Stuff. Everything is calculated dynamically. So you should show it also in all. It's there. And now let's even add the main category. Let's add food. Okay, and I'm going to even add two categories. Just my favorite food, pasta and fries. It's a bad combination. Pasta, fries. All done super dynamic without you needing to extend and update the formatting of the table. And the good thing about this is that you can also set this custom as your default. So if you right mouse click, you can say set as default. You can create as many different custom styles as you want and apply them to the different reports. I've also included a cheat sheet that covers the design steps we just did. You can print that out and expand on this to create your own optimum design. Now it's finally time for a pivot exercise.